So we're going to move into meditation. I invite you to breathe deeply, close your eyes, turn within. Did you know that your baby boy would one day walk on water? Did you know that your baby boy would save our sons and daughters? Did you know that your baby boy has come to make you new? This child that you delivered will soon deliver you. Mary, did you know that your baby boy gives sight to a blind man? Mary, did you know that your baby boy calmed the storm with his hand? Did you know that your baby boy has walked where angels trod? When you've kissed your little baby, you have kissed the face of God. So as we move into this time of conscious contact with the Lord of our being, I invite you to breathe a little deeper, letting go, and letting God be God in you in this very moment. This Advent season, my hope leads me to unwavering faith in God. This Advent season, my hope leads me to an unwavering faith in God. Breathing deeper and becoming more present to the activity of Spirit in my very being, I affirm that my belief in goodness of the world, others, myself, and God begins with hope. Maybe hope is all I can muster after a period of doubt or disappointment, or seeing all the things that are going on in the world that are challenging. And as I feel hopeful, I begin to believe that new possibilities and better outcomes are available to me and all of creation. My hopeful feelings lead to faith, a certainty that the goodness I could only sense before is the actual nature of life. So with faith, I now direct my thoughts towards goodness, wholeness, and my heart's desires. So I take a deeper breath into goodness. I take a deeper breath into wholeness. And I take a deeper breath into my heart's desires. And with gratitude for my spiritual awakening, I use faith to dismantle doubt and limitation. I hold only the best thoughts for myself and all others. I know and feel in the depths of my soul that the good I desire is already mine. With unwavering faith and deep gratitude, I claim it now. We're inspired by Psalm 62:5. For God alone, my soul waits in silence, for my hope is from God. We take a moment to know this truth now. In the silence, for God alone, my soul waits in silence, for my hope is from God. The blind will see, the deaf will hear, the dead will live again. The lame will leap, the dumb will speak, the praises of the Lamb. Mary, did you know that your baby boy Lord of all creation? Mary, did you know that your baby boy will one day rule the nation? Did you know that your baby boy was heaven's perfect lamb? This sleeping child you're holding is the great I am. I am. And as we gently return our awareness back to this time and place, we do so with gratitude for having touched the stillness just for this moment, to become more aware of the hope and faith that we have that moves us forward through life with grace and joy. And so it is. Amen. Our song. the love that makes the circle round. Be with us in this holy place. Be in the circle you have made of us. Hold us in the hollow of your hand and teach us and fold us in the love that makes the circle round. In the love that makes the circle round. In the love that makes the circle round. Thank you. Let's get rid of this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Michael and Bruce. That was a composition of Bruce. And we wanted to give you a little flavor of Christmas, some of the things that are going to be happening on Christmas. Here, and this is for you. This is for me. So, you know, these are
You wouldn't fall off.
these are interesting times, you know, this whole COVID thing, what's going on in the world. And that's Mike's mic. There you go. You know how to use that?
Yes.
So I wish I had more hair.
My father passed. He could have left me money or hair.
So I prepared a lesson for today, but I have this. You have that. Thank you. And I just thought it'd be interesting for Rabbi Bruce and I to have a conversation because today is the first day of Hanukkah, and it's also the first day of Advent. So in our Christian calendar, in unity, Advent is a preparation to awaken our Christ consciousness. So as I forget if it was Meister Eckhart or one of those wise folks who said something like, if it doesn't happen in me, if my spiritual awakening doesn't unfold, what good is it that Jesus was born? Because he came not to be the great exception, to be this divine, to be the divine in the world, but to show everyone else their divinity. So in that way, he became the great example. So that's one of the teachings in unity that, so Christmas for us is all about remembering who we are, that there is a spark of the divine within each and every one of us. We don't teach that other thing in Christianity about us being sinners and unworthy of God's love. We are part of God. We are the Creator's creative creations. So we're here to express that in all that we do. And Advent today especially, you know, that hope for better things. It's almost like wishing, like I just hope that something better is going to happen. It's the start. It's like the preamble to faith, which is knowing that it's already here, knowing that our good is already here and living from that place. So I just thought, we'll share a little bit about our unity perspective, and maybe you can give us a little perspective from your tradition about that rebel Jesus and how he turned things upside down.
We have also been taught that when somebody is so erudite in the introduction, you're in trouble with the response. Jesus has a place in Jewish tradition, an unclear place. On one hand, Jesus was bringing hope to those looking for the Messiah to come. On the other hand, there is a Yiddish word called a kochleffel, which is a pot stirrer. And Jesus, on many levels, was the consummate kochleffel. He was trying to divine something good, but what is good is only relative to what is not good. And so there's a number of pieces of the Jesus story that are quite amazing. I will tell you, I'm not particularly a person who's prone to metaphysical sorts of things too much. I'm sort of a pragmatist. I will tell you one of the few moments in my life that was exquisitely challenging to me was being in Jerusalem, which I have been a whole lot of times, 19 or 20, and standing in the Valley of Gethsemane, in the garden. Why? Because I was standing amongst trees that were witness to whatever it was from whatever our traditions suggest was happening. And what we know is that wherever you carried Jesus after, Jesus was a necessary piece of the puzzle. Somebody had to challenge what was, or conversely, what wasn't happening at the time. Whether Hanukkah, this festival of lights, connects to anything directly Christ-related is an issue of history. The fact is that the Jews were fighting the Hasmoneans, the bad guys. Every generation has bad guys. They had the Hasmoneans. We have the Red Sox. But, whoever it is, we were busy in the battle. We were trying to cleanse this temple, which was already a focus point of Jesus saying what's going on there is not the great reality it's supposed to be. But if they actually cleansed the temple in December, which was a convenient date, then what were they doing in September and October? They were fighting the battle. They were fighting the war. In those days, every community had a local God spirit. It was very, very geographically designed. Every community had its own altar, its own gods, its own God visioning, its own connection. And the Jews were busy fighting the bad guys to cleanse the temple. Keep that thought in mind for a second. Go back to September. There is a festival, an agricultural festival that takes place in September-ish, because a great piece of our puzzle was that the God to which we prayed, which had become this amorphous traveling God, this was part of the genius of all of this, is that our God was not just in Jupiter, and once you leave Jupiter, that God's protection is gone. But we took the God with us. We had the 10 Commandments as a reminder, so we carried it around. Oh, it was heavy. It was crazy. You would have thought delivery dudes or whatever it is would have dropped it off. No, we schlepped it with us for 40 years. But we couldn't offer sacrifices for agriculture. Our God, Adonai, Adon means master. Adonai is my master. It's a very specific word of all the names that we have for God. Adonai is fairly specific. It's a master-servant kind of relationship. We couldn't offer the agricultural sacrifice at the time of the harvest. It's a problem. And that is a holiday that we call Sukkot, which comes up in September. Why? Because that's when the harvest is. And we were deeply concerned that our God, Adonai, was not going to be happy because we didn't offer the agricultural sacrifice. So if you notice, the first thing we do when we cleanse the temple is we clean off the altar and offer a sacrifice. But it's not of a lamb. It's not a goat. It's light. And how do you create light for an agricultural festival? You use olive oil. And that's why it's 8 nights. The great genius of this issue is that theoretically we didn't have enough olive oil. Okay, maybe. But we offered an agricultural sacrifice right around that time. And then it all starts to come together. And you guys get better gifts and better presents. So we had to go to 8 days so we'd get more stuff. So our kids go, we don't get really good stuff like they get for Christmas, but we get 8 days of little junk. So it equals out. And
Well, yeah, bar mitzvahs, so that kind of takes care of that whole thing.
yes, we have bar mitzvah, which is bar is the son, bat is daughter of, mitzvah is a commandment. In the Torah, for us, the 5 books of Moses, the Old Testament, there are 613 mitzvot. Many of those are related to sacrifice in the temple. So there is no way that we can do all of them, even if we try.
Right.
So we're past that already. So the rabbis made an interesting connection that, in fact, there is one don't do this kind of mitzvah thing for every day, but the positives equal 1 for every bone in the human adult body. We're good. We're good with math. And don't ask me if I know a good accountant. And so we began to evolve, but there was deep concern that our God Adonai was going to be enormously upset that we didn't offer the sacrifice. So the first thing we did when we had a chance was to pull in our ecumenical, our religious mulligan. Mm-hmm. I don't know who Mulligan is. I don't know what he did that was so bad that every time we do something bad and we don't want anybody to blame it on us, we blame it on Mulligan.
Get a do-over.
I mean, I guess it proved his mother was right. But so that is the Festival of Lights, and over the centuries, all kinds of connections have been made. You guys get better lights, we get better candles, and the parallel happens. Is it really accurately timed to that? It's unclear. It really is unclear. No, the Jews did not start Hanukkah because you guys got Christmas. Okay.
Probably the other way around.
It's probably the other way around in actuality.
Same thing with Easter and Passover.
Yeah, let's have a talk about Easter, shall we?
Well, we'll wait a couple months.
Yeah.
We'll have you back.
I would share with you, however, if I can just take this solemn moment. When I was in junior high school, about 45% of the choir in junior high was Jewish kids. That was the 1960s. And our rabbi said, there's no way that you can't sing in the choir, because the choir director had said, don't sing. You'll be in the 9th grade for 14 years. But the rabbi said, it's okay as long as you don't say, what's his name? So we didn't. We gather together to bless the Lord. We gathered. And the director would go, lips, pronounce. He finally told us if we didn't sing the name, we wouldn't pass choir. Mm. Boy, did we sing. So, great challenges abound at this time of the year for everything. And that's one of the reasons that I'm here. And I am deeply thankful to Bodhi, to Reverend Bodhi, for entrusting me with anything, but with the music of a community. to show that there is simpatico in communities. And whether we sing What's His Name or fill it in with something else, our hearts and our spirits are all in the same place, and they are all lighting the same candles and the same lights, and we're all on the same journey. And I think that there are people who don't understand that, and I think that their issue is that they don't understand that the basic premise is that in our lives, we see what we seek. If we look out and we see darkness, it's because we have chosen to find darkness. We will see what we seek instead of seeing what's there. I've had colleagues who said, "You're doing music for church for Christmas?" And I said, "Absolutely." And he said, "Well, why?" And I said, "Well, they got better music." I have a little jade. Oh, yeah. But I'm sorry, they've locked me up for a long time. But the song that we did, "Be With Us," was actually written for a very, very, very dear friend of mine who's an Episcopal minister. And Polly was pouring out her soul to me in her office for about 10 minutes, and she just was going on and on and on and on. And she finally got done, and she said, "Bruce, what do you think?" And I looked up and said, "Polly, do you have a piano near here?" And she said, "Why?" And I said, "I wrote this song." So while she was pouring her soul out to me, I was writing "Be With Us." So there you go. So you never know when something is going to happen to you and for you, as long as you see what's in front of you and stop seeing what you seek, because you will take anything and make it fit the design. And God didn't ask us to do that. God didn't ask us to create the design. God said, "I created all this stuff. Why don't you stop being so busy and just look at what's in front of you instead of what you have to put there?" Because we all get in trouble because we think we know better. And that's our problem. It's not Christianity, it's not Jews, it's not Muslims. It is not. It is that we have lost the vision of what we're aiming at. George Harrison from the Beatles, as he was dying, began an album that was titled Brainwash. He was dying of brain cancer. And the chorus of the first song goes, "If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there." Mm-hmm. And that's where we are. We're on any road going to who knows where. It's enough. It's enough. Adonai, Jesus, Reverend Bodie,
Rabbi Bruce,
are trying to just put us back on a road that drives us forward. And you never know when the issue will come. You never know when it's going to come. I was in a near-fatal car accident 3 years ago. I was hit in the head by a 100-pound flying truck tire, not 200 yards from this building. 2 inches. To the left, my nose would be facing that way. Of course, my whole body would be facing that way. And when I was in the trauma truck, one of the trauma guys said to me, "You're the luckiest I've ever known." I said, "So why can't I win the lottery?"
You didn't say thank you, Jesus.
No, but I heard Beethoven's 15th Symphony, which was really intriguing because he only wrote 14. I was hearing all kinds of stuff. And he apparently said to me, "Why didn't you die?" It was a truck tire. It was the rim, the frame, the brakes, the lug nuts. It jumped across Indian Town Road, destroyed my vehicle, and hit me in the head. 2 inches. And apparently, what I said and things come from you know not where. I looked at him and said, because I was protected by a bubble of God. And I didn't even know what I'd said. I was protected by a bubble of God because people kept saying, you should have been wearing a helmet, except for the trauma surgeon who said, thank God you weren't wearing a helmet, because that helmet would have pushed your head and you would have been in two body parts. The body that was in, because I had the seatbelt on, and my head, which would have been rolling down Indiantown Road. So you never know from where. And if you keep looking for what you want, you'll find it. So what? So what? We are here to see not just what we seek, but to see what God has placed there. It's a puzzle. It's whoever told you this was supposed to be easy lied to you. Period. It's not supposed to be easy. This is the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life. To enter into a moment of deep prayer, led by your leadership, to stand at the foot of God and say, I know I don't get it yet. If you wanted me to get it yet, you would have given it to me then. We are on the journey because God said, this is not supposed to be easy. You got to work for it on every level.
Thank you.
Did that help answer anything?
Well,
Okay, I'll take
I
that
don't
as a
know.
no.
It helped me. It's just nice to be sitting here with you and feeling a connection and not feeling separate because we're from different faiths. And that's one of the beauties of unity. You know, we celebrate all paths and find the good in it all. And so I wanted to get to Advent and Christmas a little bit and talk about, so Mary was in the garden, not in the Garden of Gethsemane, when the angel came to her and told her that she was going to birth the Christ child. And she had that innocence and that faith, which today is about hope and faith for a different way. I mean, I can imagine how tough it was for her, a young Jewish girl in those days. And her response was, I am your servant. You know, I will do whatever you'll have. She had that faith to carry that out, which started this story of the birth of Jesus. Well, it actually started 600 or 700 years later with the prophecy that the Messiah would be born. So I just wondered if you could give us some insight on what it was like for that young girl, 14, 15 years old, who carried this message and became the mother of what we believe in Christianity to be the Son of God, traditionally. And just what would that be like? What kind of faith does that take?
Well, first, let me add to this, because there is a Hebrew word which continues throughout the Bible, throughout the Old Testament, when God asks humanity, where are you? God asks Abraham, where are you? And God's response is, Hineni, here I am. Now, God is not asking, really, where are you? Theoretically, God knows where we are. So it's not really a question of, where are you? You know, I mean, what do we think? We're going to hide an IHOP and God's not going to know? I mean, it's, you know, so it's this relationship of we are constantly being tested. How do I think this young woman dealt with it? I think in the same way that most visionaries do. I think it's an insanely challenging thing. I don't think that God gives those parts in the universal play so easily. Look at Job. Look at Jonah. Who believed Jonah? You know, and every one of them at some point says to God, Hineni, here I am. What do you want from me? So you imagine a 14-year-old, 15-year-old girl, and it was true that they did have children at that age in those days. They did. But you sort of go, how many people said, she's trying to cover up? Really? God came to you and talked to you? How do you know? And I would ask us this question, and that question was bopped around for a couple of years after Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Everybody thought he was nuts until he wasn't. Take a look at the movie Independence Day, when they all thought he was crazy the whole movie because he said, I was taken away by the aliens and then they brought me back, and they said, he's nuts. Until the end, when he becomes the one who saves the world, and his last words to the aliens were, I'm back. So truth is, again, where you see things. Do I think Mary asked for the job? No, I don't. I don't think most visionaries like Mary asked for the job. We as humans, candidly, we didn't even make Jesus' job so easy. You know, and the question comes, if this is the Son of God, how come God didn't make that easy? How come 2,100 years later, we're still fighting the image of the Son of God? Why didn't that just come down, and why didn't the light go off? Why didn't the T-shirts get distributed that said, done? If God dictates what happens in our world, why does God make it hard? Why doesn't God just give it to us and make it easy so we can go, that's a good God? But God doesn't do that. God over and over says, I've had enough of humans. I'm going to kill them all. You know, the Torah says God decided to destroy everybody except Noah. And the interesting quote is, who was the most righteous man of his generation. Doesn't say he was the bestest guy God ever created. Doesn't say anything that's really good. My brother-in-law, I go, he's really the tallest guy in our family. That's great. Doesn't say much about him other than he's taller than I am. Big deal. You know, Noah was the most righteous man of his generation. But God wanted to kill everybody and start again. So how good did he have to be? It happens over and over and over. So Mary, I think Mary has a conundrum. I think she's got a deep challenge. Who is going to believe a 14-year-old who says, no, I didn't, but yes, I am? And I don't mean that to be rude. I mean, think about a 14-year-old girl talking to a society around her going, no, I didn't. Really? What was it? Immaculate conception? Was it immaculate deception? What was it? No, it was what I said it was. How much inner strength does Mary have to do the work of God? What God created, don't you think God could have just said to humanity, she's going to tell you a story that's going to sound a little strange, but it's not. You see? Go back to the Garden of Eden. Why doesn't God want us to eat from the tree of knowledge? Make it easy. From the beginning, God doesn't want it to be easy. So respectfully, why would he make it easy on Mary?
So
it's a fight.
What I hear is this human construct of that we made this story of God's creation hard.
Yeah, I think
God didn't write the Bible.
Yeah, Yeah,
I mean, humankind created this story to make everything a challenge.
right.
And that's one of the things we do here is we change that a bit because we are part of that divine energy, that we can align with it and have it not be so hard. Not that you can't just not make everything hard and go. I too was hit by a car and nearly died in my life. And, I'm still here.
Want to be a member of the clergy?
Go get it. You don't have to do that. There's another way to do it, and that's, what, again,
Now he tells me.
this idea of grace, this idea of just the good action of that universal energy that moves us through life. I mean, I've done it both ways, being a person in recovery and it's bounced off cars and things like that, where my growth came through hard knocks. And then I've learned through this journey that growth can come through grace too. It doesn't have to be hard. It can be, if I can align my thinking, and there's Mary. She's not saying, oh, this is hard and this is difficult in the Bible anyway. She's saying, here I am, use me. I'll do this,
Sort of. And then the other side is God has said to her, guess what? And this is not to be crass, but did she offer herself up? Or did when God said, guess what? She went, okay, I'm good because I have belief.
So the metaphysics of this are that we all have the Christ child within. That we have that consciousness because we have that spark of the divine. The Creator can't create anything unlike itself. So the metaphysics is we all have Mary within us, which is this receptive, loving female energy that is willing to birth our highest self.
Mm-hmm. And Judaism has a similar thing. We have the Shekhinah, which is the female image and spirit of God. So we didn't eliminate that. I mean, the parallels are quite there. But at some point, if God had a vision, we are partners. And you're right, while this community says we have a piece of Christ, we believe that there's a piece of God in each of us. Mm-hmm. And it is on us to find it and expand it. We're each given a teeny little morsel of it. So the question is, how much can you fill this vessel with the possibilities?
That's a spiritual journey.
Right, and it's a journey because God could have made it ridiculously easy. Look at the animals. They got it pretty good. They don't think much. You feed them. This dog licks me to death. I got to take 6 hours a day. Sam Laws, she knows my dog. The dog can't stop saying thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You go, I'm going to not feed you for 2 weeks. Maybe you'll be a little less thankful. You're killing me. But we have the opportunities. But it's a search. It's a journey. We are in partnership with. If God gave us the answers, then there's nothing to search for. You don't look for what you already have. You're always looking for something else. And so maybe God wanted it to be a partnership. Maybe that was the plan. Maybe as humans we go, oh, you're killing me. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's the Jews. But God, let's use a couple of ifs. If God had a plan, and if God created humanity, and if this is where we are in the rotation, something didn't happen quite full. I won't say wrong. Something was not complete. So we keep looking because we have to, because it's partnership. We are responsible. We are partners with God in the act of creation. But we can't create the whole big gadilla. Only Jeff Bezos has that much money. But we can do that with each other. We can do it with each other. We can decide that just because something is different, again, God doesn't want it to be He wanted us all to be the same. Boring, but God could have done it. Jews believe more in the concept of a messianic era. a messianic age. And that is one of the differences between us. Not that we don't believe in a Messiah. We see Isaiah as a guy who brought forth visions. And part of the vision was a messianic age, which is why we sort of go until Elijah shows up, not just to pass over to drink the wine and get sloshed, going to every Jewish house on the planet, but until Messiah comes clearly and defines the coming of the Messiah, that the Messianic age and the Messiah have not yet come. It's a difference between us. But we are not...
I'd just like to say, in unity, it's not that much of a difference, because we do believe the second coming is the awakening of humankind into our divine consciousness.
Well, in that case, I'd like to invite you all to the temple in Port St. Lucie. We do services Friday night, Saturday morning, and then you could merge all that down here Sunday mornings. It's great.
And I'm noticing that, I'm watching the clock, and people are starting to move and get a little fidgety because, we have a time frame kind of thing.
Yeah, I was fidgeting because I'm on this wood stool. They got good chairs. Treat all your guests like this, do you? In any case, there is so much that we could talk about. Yeah. We'll never get through it all, and that's part of the fun of it.
Yeah.
Is God wanted us to sit and talk to each other. Our prayer book, last thing, and just as a final thing, we work from a prayer book. Our order of prayer is a little different. Our prayer book is called a Siddur. It's the same root of the word as Seder, like Passover Seder. Siddur means order. So we don't see the opposite of God as evil. We see the opposite of God as chaos. God brings us order and the possibility of expanding order, and the opposite of that is chaos. So those are easy choices for us as human beings to make. You want to create chaos? Come over to my house. It's good. So thank you. I know you're getting spilkes. And my toches, you see, all of a sudden, I resound into Yiddish.
Thank you, Rabbi Bruce.
But thank you.
Thank you for the conversation. I love you. Thank you.